This is PlayerTwo. You might know me from Real Rain mod that came out on Steam as well as on Nexus. Today I'm going to talk about, weather, and mostly about rain and how you can affect that and whatnot. So, starting off, I guess we'll start off with climate. And I'll try to break this up into segments so that it's easy for you guys to follow. But climate, see right here, like each world space has its own climate. So Blackreach even has its own climate, even though it's, down in the middle of nowhere. It has its own climate. As well as the main one that you'll probably be changing is the Skyrim climate. And as you can see, there's tons of different weathers and chances of weather types. I guess to start off with sun glare. You can change the textures for those. The moon phase, if there are two moons or not. Night sky. This is nifty. You can always change up the night sky if you want. Change up the sunrise and sunset times. This is the most important thing that'll be tied into what I'm talking about is the weather types and the chance. So the chances of it being clear is the highest, obviously with 11%, but with a 30% volatility, it could be more or less depending on the day. It could be 50%. It could be 3%, just because of the volatility. And if you make the volatility 0, then the chance will always be 11. But if you make it higher, then the chance will be a lot higher or a lot lower. So, keep that in mind. Alright, and let's see here. The next thing is weather. You've got tons of different types of weather, like you saw before. And each weather contains a lighting palette and and the weather palette, which is kind of annoying that they're grouped up together, because that means if you do change the lighting palette or weather, like if you have a weather or a lighting palette mod, one is going to override the other. So it's your call which one you want to use. In this video, I'm going to go over general and then and directional ambient. Then I'm going to leave the rest for the next one. Kind of go over the basics of the lighting. So each weather has, again, its own lighting palette for sunrise, day, night, sunrise, sunset. Plus all these types of lighting. I'm not going to go over that, but this is important to note that it's tied together. Because if you goof up something over here in your weather, you're going to be goofing up the whole world for that weather. So this is where all your lighting stuff is, if you're interested in that, as well as the directional ambience in the next tab. But I don't really know anything about that. And even the guys at Realistic Lighting with customization, from what I looked at, this didn't even get changed by them, so it doesn't seem that important yet. Going on to some important stuff though, fog distance. So there's near and there's far. Near is how near the fog starts to you. So if you have it 0, the fog's going to start right underneath your feet. If you started off at like 5,000, I think it's like 5,000 steps forward is where the fog will actually start. So if you make this with a really foggy weather, you'll see the fog part right in front of you. And the same thing for night. sub-zero for right now. Far, that's how far the fog will actually spread out, from what I understand. Um, and also too, like if you set this at a low value like 100, the fog is going to start right in front of you. I mean, right there, right in front of you. But at least it'll be gradual up to there because of this. Near starts at 0. Um, but if you put both of these, at 100, it'll be a wall right in front of you of fog. That's kind of a cool like little thing to see. But I digress. But again, the far, if you make this lower, there's going to be a lot more fog in front of you. Make it higher, there's going to be a lot less fog. Around 30,000 is when you'll start to see it way off in the distance, but you'll still see it. You know, like it's good for ambiance. Power and max. So these two, so power and max, I believe it's kind of like a transparency kind of thing. You know, the higher the power and the max is, the less transparent the fog is going to be. The lower, the more transparent it's going to be. And I think the max is just like the maximum thickness of the fog. So it might be a good idea to start off with power and then max. But play around with it. You know, it's fun to mess with. Next huge thing I'll go over is this guy right here. Well, actually, I'll go over the cloud textures because it's not that important. This I haven't messed around with too much, but I'm guessing these are the layers, you know, from ground level to up in the sky level. And if you see it, like right here, this is way the heck up there, and this shows the actual textures. I don't know why you'd mess with this. I kind of like the cloud textures already, but if you wanted to, you know, take them away, disable the cloud textures completely, you can already do that kind of with the any tweaks. But if you don't want to just even mess with any tweaks, you can do that there. You know, it's also useful if you're making a new world space and you don't want any. You want little or no cloud textures. You can, you know, have one layer instead of having like, I think there's like 4 or 5 that are enabled, and the speed at which the clouds actually go at. Alright, next thing here, wind direction. So that's the direction of the wind by compass. So it goes all the way up to 360 or down to 0, which is the same. And it's just which direction you want the wind to be going. Wind direction range, that's how much of a sway it can have. You know, so if it's at 102 and the wind direction's at 136, it's either going to add 100 to each side or 50 to each side. I'm not sure which, but I haven't really used it too much. So it gives it variation to the wind direction. Wind speed, that's more or less the slant of the wind gives to the snow and the rain. Haven't really noticed any other big things to it other than that. You know, I think it also controls effects. How fast effects move if you're using them. Transitional delta, that's the transition, how fast rain and fog and weather appears. 128 in my opinion is way too low for most of these weathers to transition. It's like, you know, because the fog will pop out of nowhere if you have a lot of fog. So what I recommend on these is on the clearer weathers, like the ones without fog, what you want to do is you want to Still want to make it a little bit higher, like 180. But for the ones that have fog, set it all the way up to 250. Because if you don't do that, the fog will come in slow. It'll come in nice, but for some reason, after it comes in like 60% of the way, it'll snap to 100, and you'll see that fog just appear right in front of you. It's kind of annoying. The sun glare, that's how much bloom you get off the sun. So if you set it to 0, you won't have a lot of bloom. If you set it to 100, it's a cool effect if you have like a desert map, because the sun is going to be so glaring down at you. But that's what I would use it for, you know. For Skyrim, you don't need that high. You need like 20, 20 max. Sun damage, that's tied into vampires. So I think that's like, if you put it at 0, I don't think they regenerate any health, or they get hurt by it. If you put it at 20, is looks like the default on most of these things. That's they'll get hurt going outside. Yes, I haven't spent too much time being a vampire, so I don't know. But one has got to be devastating. So if you want to make it more realistic for a vampire, you'd have to go in and you have to change every weather to the sun damage to be 1 for when you go outside and there's sun to really be hurting. Yeah, that would be a cool mod too. There isn't one. Alright, next I'll be going over precipitation, maybe, and then after that I think I'll be going over sound and effects. So stay tuned.